claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Black and I'm proud. When you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. Become a part of it. Embrace it. Become a part of it. Embrace it.
How y'all doing? All right. I'm Dr. Dennis Assault Winkler, founder of TNAT Holistic Wellness Center. I'm so happy to have you here today at TNAT, and I appreciate everybody coming out. We're going to have a beautiful presentation today. I'm looking to learn a lot. I know that I will learn a lot because I know the guest that we have today, the lecturer we have today, is very powerful and very intentional. This is our Communiversity series. She's an instructor, so we're going to have lots of instructors. Some other instructors are in the room today. So nonetheless, I want to talk about why a Communiversity. Why is that important? I'll just tell you, it's many reasons why it's important. But one of the reasons why I thought it was important and why I wanted to bring our Communiversities back is that I see a lot of things on social media, a lot of things going on, especially since COVID. Social media has really, I don't know, it's increased, but I'm going to call it foolishness.
Absolutely.
So I want to do my part in balancing that out a bit, right? I want to do my part with others that I appreciate their thought, their minds, and help bring them to the community, one, because that's the other part. The other part, I feel like COVID has done some things where we're not connecting as we were before COVID. So my goal is also to have us come together, and I think a lot of us have grown tremendously throughout that process nonetheless. So I want to kind of reintroduce ourselves to the community in this space, in other spaces, and also on social media spaces. So I want to make sure that we have quality production. Give a shout out to the cameraman, Brother Tyran. He does wonderful work. So I'm looking forward to this presentation and how Dr. Ma'at will just share with us, and how our cameraman will take it and chop it up and really put it out there for the community at large, and so it can age and age well. You understand? Because I think the people I want to bring forward to us will be the next generation of scholars, activists, and so on and so forth to carry the torch forward. At this time, what I'd like to do is bring a dear brother who's also, he's actually speaking next on April the 13th at our Communiversity, Baba M. Hotep. That will be April the 13th. 2024 between 6 and 9 p.m. We're also going to have an open mic that night. So if you want to sign up for the open mic, whatever you do, if it's dance, if it's singing, if it's poetry, whatever it is, bring that forth. All right? And so Dr. Baba M. Hotep, can you come forth and invoke the ancestors?
Hotep family, how y'all doing?
Hotep.
Peace and blessings, man. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing all right.
Man, listen up. Whenever we come together, whenever you bring two black people together, you always bring an army together. Understand that. Because our ancestors are always with us. That's the reason Harriet Tubman got from where she got from and got to Pennsylvania and got all the way to New York and got back down and got others out. Because the ancestors with her. We got to know that. All the roadblocks that have been put before black people have been put before black people to keep black people from knowing that we are superior and super people. Simple as that. It's all been a distraction. Jim Crow, lynching, fire bombings, some distraction. Thank you.
Thank you.
So those of you who are able, you got the strength in you that can stand, please stand. But those of you, if you can't, don't worry about it. So we're going to do our libation, which is it's a ritual that allows us to open up the space. I like to say to break and crack the portal so the ancestors can descend upon us, because whenever we whenever we congregate, we do need the blessing of the ancestors. So we want to start off by pouring water to, I like to say, the great Odamari or Chuka, we say, we'll pour our base into the Abosun, the Rishas, the Netherwoods, and we'll pour our base into those ancestors, the ones that stood on the thresholds on the continent. So call some of those names, those ancestors over there. I start off by saying, great Shaka Zulu. Call some names.
Yarasati,
Ashe.
Zinga,
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. All right, this time I want you to call some names from the bloodline, ancestors, someone who touched you in such a way that inspired you to do some of the things you're doing today. Michael O'Brien.
Ashe. Mother Bailey.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. How many names? Ashe. Sheila Trey. Ashe.
Bert.
Kevin Hall. Ashe. David Johnson. Ashe. You would like to pull our base to Ashe. Like to pull our base to the living dead, pull our base to the ghetto born. Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe. Oh.
Libation is complete.
All right, thank you. Peace, thank you. All right, give our ancestors a round of applause. All right, so I have an official bio of the great speaker that we have coming before us. But before I read her bio, I just want to just shed some light on the experience I had more recently with her. And much of the reason why I asked her to come and speak. And much of the reason why I asked her to speak is I saw what she was doing at the institution where she teaches, which is Morgan State University. I mean, I already knew she's phenomenal, right? I already knew she's phenomenal in the community, when all the work she does, the work that she does and as she teaches. But going into the school was a different type of experience. She asked me to come, one, I think, which is indicative of her character and how she cares for her students. After there was a mass shooting at Morgan, she knowing that I'm a psychotherapist, she said, Dr. Assad, can you come speak to my children? Can you come speak to my babies? Can you come speak to my students? And I say, I'm gonna try to get there. Yeah, I can try to make that happen. And of course, I kind of rearranged my schedule and some things like that. But not only did she ask me to come one time, she say when they asked, I forgot what the saying is, but she asked me to come, I think 3 days or something like that. So 2 or 3 days, right? But nonetheless, it was a very beautiful experience. And not just me engaging with the students and processing the trauma or the traumas that may have taken place as a result of having a mass shooting at your school. I got to see her in her element. I've always seen it on camera sometimes, but to see her in her element at Morgan State University as an engineer, as a doctor of engineering, was a beautiful thing. I saw firsthand what I would call an African-centered, Pan-African framework or approach in teaching our children. And what I mean is, in reality, there's a lot of debate going on. What is important for us? Is it social science? Is it STEM? Is it this? Is it that? Is it medical sciences? Whatever. And I think we're going out little corners and we think we're more important than the other. But I don't agree with that. But what I am saying is, I saw her infuse engineering, science, technology, mathematics firsthand, but I also saw her include culture, art. I saw her include history, and I also heard her infuse political and not just general political information. She was preparing our children to utilize that information firsthand in her classroom. After having experience with the experience, she shared with them the power they have within them. So that was a wonderful experience. And I saw the discipline that she expected out of them. She was she was imparting discipline in our children. It was like I went back to school when those old school teachers, you understand? I'll be honest, because I'm a therapist. And so it's a different type of approach sometimes. But she had that old school, I mean, they like they would have just called her mom. You understand? That type of approach when she was engaging with our children. So I'm going to go ahead and read this bio, but what I want to really say is she was real. She was engaging. She was connected. She was concerned. And I understand that what she was saying and what she was doing, it was bigger than maybe even, she wasn't saying things that potentially wouldn't cause her some kind of headache. She was literally saying, look, I'm here for y'all. So I'm going to read the bio. Dr. Oya. She is a U.S. Army veteran who received her undergraduate degree in electrical engineering from Morgan State University while serving in the military. She continued her education at Morgan, eventually receiving a Doctor of Engineering degree. Dr. Ma'at is currently a faculty member of the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Morgan State University, where she utilizes an African-centered methodology to instruct students and create a culturally affirming classroom. Her research focuses on determining the best pedagogical strategies for African American STEM learners. Additionally, she designs, implements, and directs pre-college engineering programs based on her methods. Dr. Ma'at and her team have been awarded over $1 million in National Science Foundation grants to increase the interest and participation of African Americans in STEM by combating systematic racism within STEM education. Dr. Ma'at is also aims to reconceptualize engineering for African people in the 21st century and inspire the utilization of engineering for the liberation and advancement of African people. Dr. Ma'at is the founder and the director of Ed Anime Productions, a company that creates educational programs designed to cultivate the consciousness, character, and the capabilities of African children, and to affirm their identity, intelligence, and potential. The company offers 3 programs. Meltrack, a multimedia program that teaches children about their history, culture, and achievements of African people. Conscious Ingenuity, an African-centered science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics program. And the Asafo Training Camp, a program jointly created by Ed Anime Productions and the Pan-African Liberation Movement that focuses on manhood development in teenage boys. Dr. Ma'at is also the founder and host of Truth to Power Talks with Dr. Ma'at, a platform that is committed to informing and connecting African people around the world, elevating the voices of African educators, researchers, scientists, humanitarians, and entrepreneurs, and combating online misinformation. Let me say that one more time. Oh no, I don't even have to say it one more time because the next thing is really important too. And disinformation. Her platform has been viewed by nearly 1 million people. Dr. Ma'at has been featured in 2 documentaries, Buck Breaking, a documentary film about the historic sexual exploitation of Black people globally, and The American Maroon, a documentary about African resistance in the Americas. Dr. Ma'at is the recipient of numerous awards: the UNI ACL Community Service Award, the ASEE Honorable Mention, MSU, Morgan State University, Office of Academic Affairs Creativity Award, Inspire Her Award, B1 Education Award, Black Power Award, Top Beta Pi. Thank you for the, I haven't really did a lot of work in the Greek world, but Engineering Honor Society, Lockheed Martin Scholarship Recipient, Society of American Military Engineers Scholarship Recipient, and Distinguished Honored Graduate of the U.S. Army Finance School. With no further ado, I bring my sister, Dr. Oya Ma'at.
Hotep.
Hotep.
Peace.
Peace.
Alafiyani.
Alafiyani.
It's an honor. It's an honor being here with you tonight. All praises to our ancestors, for we are the sum total of our ancestors, and we stand on their shoulders. Ashe?
Ashe.
And we see far because we stand on their shoulders. And so I always got to give it up for our ancestors. I want to thank Dr. Asar for the invitation to contribute to the Communiversity. What you're doing, Doc, is a beautiful thing, and I appreciate the invitation and being part of what you're doing, because you're doing a lot of work in the community. So thank you so much. So I'm here today to talk to you all about STEAM education. Now on the flyer, we put STEAM education with one A, and I'll get into what the double A stands for. Because typically we see STEAM, right, which stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. But if we're talking about nation building, then we need to add another A to that, and that's agriculture. I think it was Fannie Lou Hamer that said that a nation who can't feed itself can't free itself. Ashe? And so we got to add that A. If we're talking about nation building, we got to add the A to it, and that's for agriculture. So I'll be talking to you about STEAM education, and I titled this, notice, A Necessity for African Liberation, Sovereignty, and Survival. A necessity. STEAM education is a necessity. So I always tell brothers and sisters in the community who's talking about black empowerment and nation building, if you're not talking about STEAM, then you're not talking about nation building. Ashe? Because anybody who's serious about liberation, sovereignty, and nation building, they have to be talking about STEAM education. So this presentation is dedicated to our ancestors, and I just picked out some of the ones that I hold nearest and dearest to my heart. Can you call out some of the names that are familiar to you?
Amy Jock Garvey.
Ashe?
Marcus Garvey.
Ashe?
Marty Cloud Bethune.
Ashe?
Josh Damon.
Ashe?
Jay Donald Jock.
Bobby, that's not fair. Ashe? Bobby know everybody on there. Oh, keep going, Bob. Who else? Dr. Ben, good. Sheikh Joe.
Chancellor Williams.
Chancellor Williams.
Amos Wilson.
Dr. Amos Wilson, absolutely. Yep, Ida B. Wells.
Marcus
Dr.
Garvey.
John Henry Clark, Ashe.
Francis Cress
Dr.
Wilson.
Francis Cress Wilson, Ashe. Did we miss anyone? Henrietta Benton Davis. Fannie Lou Hamer.
That's it.
And I think that was it. Ashe. Dedicated to our ancestors. So this is my agenda. I'm going to first begin by talking about African American underrepresentation in STEM and provide you with some statistics and some popular majors that we are pursuing in the community. And Doc, I know you, like you said earlier, there's this back and forth. Where did he go? Did he go? Okay, he's right there. I know you always say it's this back and forth about what disciplines are more important. And I agree 1,000% with you when you said we need them all. We do need them all. My issue is that it isn't enough emphasis or enough push towards the STEM fields. That's my issue. I think we need them all. Absolutely. We need them all. But we need more people in STEM. Not enough of us are going into STEM. And you'll see the data for yourself in a few. You'll see why I'm pushing it so hard. Then I'm going to get into the reasons for the underrepresentation. I don't think a lot of people understand why we're underrepresented in STEM, right? It's because we're just not interested, or is our interest not being supported, right? Two totally different things. Then I'm going to present to you some solutions by some African American educators, right? There's a lot of solutions out there, and I'll talk to you about the ones that I've studied thoroughly, and then conclude with my future work and conclusion. I want to start with this quote by the Honorable Marcus Garvey. This was a quote from a speech that he did in 1924, Look for Me in the Whirlwind. So the Honorable Marcus Garvey says, "There is no height to which you cannot climb without the active intelligence of your own mind. Mind creates, and as much as we desire in nature, we can have through the creation of our own minds." He says, in today being scientifically the weaker race. Let me pause right here. The first time I said this on the internet, people got mad with me. Marcus Garvey didn't call us a scientifically weaker race. Yes, he did. This is in 1924. He says, in today being scientifically weaker, it's supposed to say weaker race, you shall treat others only as they treat you, but in your homes and everywhere possible, you must teach the higher development of science to your children and make sure, and then he said, and make sure that we have a race of scientists per excellence. He said this 100 years ago. Okay? He says, for in religion and science lies our only hope to withstand the evil designs of modern materialism. This is not Dr. Ma'at making this up. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said this 100 years ago. Called us a scientifically weaker race. And he said we need to be basically, and I'm paraphrasing the ancestors' words, we need to be in the business of cultivating scientists. He said right here, par excellence. And he also ended or concluded by saying, he said, for in religion, but I want to focus on the science part, science lies our only hope to withstand the evil designs of modern materialism. Did we listen to Marcus Garvey? Well, let's look at the stats. Did we listen to him? Says among African American students pursuing bachelor's degrees in STEM, says 40% of them, they change their majors from STEM majors to non-STEM degrees when they come to college. But you have folks who will come in and I want to be an engineer, I want to be a scientist, I want to be a mathematician. Almost half of them change their major by sophomore year. So this says right here, according to the U.S. Department of Education, during the 2020-2021 academic years, a total of 437,302 bachelor's degrees were awarded. 232 went to whites. 232,000 went to whites. 30,000 went to African American students. 57 went to Hispanics, and 121 went to Asians, right? So then at the bottom it says, according to the National Science Foundation, as of 2017, African Americans constitute 4.8% of scientists and engineers. Of that 4.8%, 3.2% are black men, 1.6% are black females. So roughly about 5% of us are working as scientists and engineers. And you say, well, Dr. Ma'at is always pushing STEM. It's 4.8% of us in science and engineering right now. So where are we going? What majors are we going? So according to the African Americans College Majors and Earnings, this is published in 2016, look at the top majors. We're going into law and public policy, psychology and social work. Remember you said that earlier, you mentioned that. Psychology and social work, health, business. And I'm not saying that these majors aren't important, right? But we got to understand right now, we're living in the digital age. We're living in the age of technology, right? So if you all think the racial wealth gap is wide now, wait until the entire economy is based on technology. We're going to be completely locked out. And then you're talking about nation building with who? The health majors? I'm not throwing daggers. I'm just saying, when you building a nation, and not saying that we don't need doctors, because we do. We do. I go to the doctors all the time. We do. We need doctors. We need psychologists. We need psychiatrists. These disciplines are important. But I was having a conversation with my barber, and he hit the hammer on the nail when we were talking. He said, when you talked about the foundational stages of nation building, you need your STEM folks, right? You need your STEM folks.
That's right, in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning. And that's facts, you do. But look what's going on. This is where the world is headed. And I've told my students this, and they look at this. It says AI is shifting the world of employment, right? AI is taking over. So a lot of these jobs our children think they're going to get, AI will be doing it for them in the next couple of years. Look down the bottom right here. It says the future of autonomous delivery initiatives. So our children say, well, I don't need to go to college. I'll just get a delivery job. I'll just drive an Uber. One day when you order an Uber on your app, it'll be autonomous driving car pulling up to your house to take you where you want to go. We won't need Uber drivers. We won't need pizza delivery people. Look at right here in the middle. McDonald's unveils first automated location. Social media worried it will cut millions of jobs. All right, in California, they have a store totally automated. You just go in there, you press up your order, you put what you want, and the food comes down the chute. So if our children think, well, I can just get a job working at McDonald's. Nope. Not in the next 5 years. Walmart, what about Walmart? Yeah, well, what about Walmart? Walmart chases higher profits powered by warehouse robots and automated cars. They don't need you to stock the warehouses anymore. They got robots that'll do that, right? Walmart expects 65% of stores to be serviced by automation in 2026. Come on, not far away at all. 2 years we talking. 2 years we talking. Look at this in the middle. So I remember my aunt, she went to Philly, and I was telling her about AI and robotics, and the robots are taking over. She went to Philadelphia for a conference, and she came back. She said, "Niece, guess what I saw?" And I said, "What do you see, Auntie?" She said, "I saw a drone power washing a building. It was a guy standing at the bottom of the building operating a drone that was power washing the building." Do you know how many jobs that took away? Usually a huge building, you got multiple men in different crews.
Yeah.
It was one guy with a drone. You know, the drone was power washing it. So look at that. Drone power washing works smarter and safer. So a lot of these jobs our children think that they're going to have in the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to be gone. So you wonder why Dr. Ma'at is worried about the statistics down here. 4.8% of us are scientists or working scientists and engineers. So what is that going to do to the whole of the black community? When we really, like, we're in the technology age now, the digital age now, but we haven't seen anything yet. So speaking of what Bob and Imhotep and I were talking about, we say in the foundational stages, you need your engineers. Marcus Garvey felt the same way. So when they were attempting to resettle African Americans in Liberia, right? And I don't want to keep taking daggers at folks, but look who they took with them. So in Blueprint for Black Power, Dr. Amos Wilson tells us in his chapter entitled Empowerment Through Wealth, Early African American Investment in Africa, the case of Marcus Garvey. Look at what he said. In June 1924, something about that 24, isn't it? Look for me in the whirlwind, 1924, June 1924. The UNIA sent out a team of experts to prepare camps for colonists. They were O'Malley, commissioner, William Strange, a mining and civil engineer, Roberts, an electrical engineer, Wilcott, a shipwright and builder, Hurley, a carpenter and builder, Nicholas, a mechanical engineer, and Rupert Christian, a secretary. It says with these men went thousands of dollars of material for ready use on landing. Additional shipments on a later ship were contracted to be sent for when there were storage facilities. That gives credence to what Bob Imhotep said on the phone when he said at the foundational stages, you need your scientists, you need your engineers, you need your mathematicians, you need your producers of technology. Marcus Garvey thought the same way 100 years ago, where he wanted to resettle us in Liberia. Look who he took with him. Look at his team. They were the builders. The builders. So why are we underrepresented in STEM? Is it because we're not interested? No, we're interested. According to Dr. Glenda Prime, and his sister, she's the dean of the School of Education at Morgan State University. She wrote a book entitled Centering Race in the STEM Education of African American K-12 Learners. So Dr. Prime said that dominant explanations when it comes to explaining reasons for underrepresentation in STEM, she says that dominant explanations exude deficit perspectives. So they're saying they don't have, it's a lack of, right? So it says these include, initially people were saying, well, it's innate and genetic determined deficiencies. So genetically, we just weren't wired, right, to pursue these type of fields. That's what they thought. They thought disinterest. They thought cultural mismatch, lack of parental support, poorly resourced schools. Now, I do agree with the last 3 bullets. I do agree with that, being a cultural mismatch and lack of parental support as well as poorly resourced schools. But this is what they actually thought, that maybe it's just something in us, you know, we're not wired to pursue STEM. And let me pause right here, because the state put forth this or presented this idea in 1984, well, 1983. So prior to Morgan establishing the School of Engineering over there in 1984, in 1983, they were fighting the state to get the School of Engineering there. And the state said, I don't want to give it to you all. We want to put it at UMBC. All right, we don't think, so basically they say, I don't think black folks are capable of learning STEM. We're going to put it at UMBC. And so they fought. Peace to I'm thinking about Dean DeLoach right now, some of those warriors, right? He's like 86, 87 now. But peace to those warriors, they fought. They said, no. And they kept fighting. And so they came up with this compromise. Well, we'll put civil, industrial, and electrical engineering at Morgan, and then we'll take the other 3 disciplines and put them at UMBC. So I think UMBC has like chemical engineering, systems engineering, and something else, right? So that was the compromise. But they actually presented that idea, the first bullet, at the meeting. We don't think you all are capable of doing that, right? So they made the compromise, and here we are today at Morgan, right, since 1984. So it says such perspectives are often accompanied with deficit-based solutions. Let's upgrade the schools. Let's modify the curriculum and include cultural references. But in this book, she talked about racism. She said racism is really at the core of why we are underrepresented in STEM, right? It's racism. And when you think about the history, of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, it was born in Africa. So what happened that African people are no longer pursuing these fields? Well, a lot of things happened. The Ma'afa happened, right? The era of enslavement, colonization. You got miseducation, right? Then you're dealing with racism, so you're dealing with these poorly resourced schools. So it says right here, racism is rarely presented as a reason for African American underrepresentation in STEM. That the prime states that racism influences policies, decisions, curriculum design, and manifests in teacher-student interactions. In this book by Thomas Shapiro, The Hidden Cost of Being African American, Thomas Shapiro tells us that race and class defines communities and determines the qualities of schools within, right? So America is still racially segregated, highly racially segregated. But if you compare our schools or urban schools to the schools where white folks are, a lot of their teachers are more competent in their specific field. So for example, in an urban school, you might have the librarian teaching STEM. And I've seen this. Like I've seen this. I went to a high school one day and they were talking about, was it cyber? I think it was cyber security. No, it was artificial intelligence. It was artificial intelligence. And I asked the teacher, I said, I already knew, but I wanted to confirm, do you have a background in artificial intelligence? And the teacher looked at me and said, oh, no, I don't. I said, well, what was your major in high school? Well, I'm a liberal arts major. So the liberal arts person is teaching artificial intelligence. And I'm not saying that you can't pick up a book and be an autodidact in a field, but it's totally different when you have an expert in that field coming to teach the class. Totally different experience that the child is going to get. So in those urban, but you'll go to a school where the white folks are and the teacher has a math background or a cyber background. Those are the people teaching the courses, right? So you have that sort of stuff happening. So anyway, it says an examination of the statistics concerning public schools in various counties reveal that a school's location plays an influential part in a student's success. So they already know whether you're going to be successful or unsuccessful just based on where you live at. Darlin Hammond in 1998 states that the educational system, and you're talking about in America, is one of the most inequitable in the industrialized world, and students routinely receive dramatically different learning opportunities based on their social status. Look at this, y'all. I know you've seen the headlines. Look at that. 23 Baltimore schools have 0 students proficient in math. State test results reveal, right? 77% tested in Baltimore high school read at an elementary level, right? Some at a kindergarten level. Look at Chicago. Look what's happening in Chicago. Democrats, alarm, 55 schools report no proficiency in math or reading. This is what's happening to the schools. And then you get to me, or professors like me, right? And say, I want to be an engineer. And I think it's great that you want to be an engineer. But I'm at this level trying to figure out now, how do I engineer an engineer who isn't prepared? How do you do that? How do you engineer who isn't prepared for the rigorous coursework? How do you do that, right? So our schools, look at what's happening in our schools. This isn't happening in white communities, predominantly white communities, where they're not reading on reading level or they're not proficient in math or reading. This isn't happening. in a lot of the city schools, urban schools, most of the kids aren't graduating with math past Algebra 2, from my understanding. They're not even going beyond Algebra 2. But to be successful, and was that?
They're not even getting bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're not.
I worked in Forest Park.
Yeah, nobody must say, on average, they're not even getting beyond, like you said, beyond Algebra 2.
Yeah.
Like you said, they're not even getting there, but they're not even getting, there and beyond. And to be into STEM, you got to at least come to college with calculus. Calculus. That's what we need. Calculus when you walk through the door. And that's why I always talk to parents. They say, well, how do I do this? How to get my child prepared? Every day your child should be reading and doing math and engaged in physics. Every single day. If you want your child to be successful in STEM, every day they should be working on math. Every day they should be reading and they should be learning physics. That's very important. Physics. And I'm talking about specifically for engineering physics. Now, if it's like computer engineering, like Inyame, coding or something along those lines. But if you're talking about electrical engineering, physics, math, and reading. Every day. Every day. So schools aren't preparing us, right? Schools are poorly resourced, so they can't house a STEM program. Then you have teachers who aren't competent in the STEM disciplines teaching the stuff. Then look at what you also have. It says right here, traditional STEM pedagogical practices and curricula contribute to this phenomenon. So while conventional STEM teaching aims to develop and strengthen interdisciplinary skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, and exploratory learning, European history and epistemology, ways of knowing, are at its core. So the way STEM is taught to our students is a turnoff. It's boring. My students tell me that all the time. They come to my class, Doc, I love your class. I love your class. When I go over there with so-and-so, it's just boring. The way they teach it, the way it's presented to our children, is boring. It doesn't connect them with they're not connected with the content. Right. Dr. Amos Wilson argues in his book, The Falsification of African Consciousness, he says that African people do not learn mathematics and science in neutral. You don't. He says right here, European history is ingrained in the study of these disciplines. The names of concepts, laws, who discovered them. It says Dr. Wilson further asserts that the educational system is based on the psychology of Europeans. That's why our kids can't connect with it. They can't connect with it. The way it's taught and what it's taught is Eurocentric. It's not centered around them, it's centered around them. So our children can't connect with it. So it's a disconnect. It's not that our children aren't interested in STEM. They're interested in STEM. They're being ill prepared to pursue a career in STEM. They're being ill prepared because of the type of STEM education that they are receiving. So some solutions, Dr. Glenda Prime in 2019, she recommended her book utilizing a race visible pedagogy, and I laughed when I saw it. I said, that's just an African-centered approach to teaching STEM. For African American students, you're talking about the African-centered approach. You're talking about race visible pedagogy, right? Then you had Dr. James Holly, who's a good colleague of mine. He's a teacher out of University of Michigan. In 2021, he published a paper. And he's like, I think that, when we're teaching STEM, we should teach with social political awareness, and we should infuse, Black success stories in there. And I'm like, that's a part of it. Burbanks and others, namely Dr. Kenneth Shockley. Dr. Kenneth Shockley, he was on the money. He said, okay, we should implement African-centered education in STEM, and they published a paper about it, but when I read the paper, what he really was talking about was incorporating African history and culture. And that's a piece of it, that's a piece of it, but that's not the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, let me teach you some people in STEM, some Black people in STEM, and let's call each other babas and mamas, and now we got an African-centered STEM program. That's not it, mm-hmm. Okay? And then my team, over at Morgan, I was working with a center, a cybersecurity center. In 2023, we were talking about using culturally responsive teaching strategies to inspire African-American female participation in cybersecurity. So we used the CRT, which was an approach that derived from culturally relevant pedagogy, which was introduced by a sister, Dr. Gloria Latson-Billings. She banned Dr. Gloria Latson-Billings. But when you're talking about African kids or African American, you're talking about an African-centered approach. That's what you're really talking about when you talk about culturally responsive teaching or culturally relevant pedagogy. That's what you're talking about, culturally sustaining pedagogy. So I've been pushing this heavy. African-centered STEM education and trying to unpack what that looks like. I remember going to different African-centered educators and I said, what's a framework? And peace be upon his soul, I'm thinking about Kwame Nkrumah. That was the closest. His framework was beautiful. He left a theoretical and conceptual framework for African-centered education. Not as it pertains to STEM, but a framework that you can build off to implement it in the context of STEM. Baba Kwame Nkrumah, he wrote the book Nation Building, African-Centered Education Theory and Practice. So he came close, but then the rest of them, I said, well, what, give me something else, right? Give me something a little deeper. So anyway, African-Centered STEM education. So how does African-Centered education look like in the context of STEM? I couldn't find that. And I found African-centered educators who did, implement, I would say, elements of African-centered education in STEM programs, absolutely. But it wasn't what I was looking for. I needed us to dig a little deeper. And I didn't see an actual, conceptual or theoretical framework for how African-centered education looks like in the context of STEM. So I'm in the process of I have developed my own. So I call it African-centered STEM education. I define it as a transformative educational process by which science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are taught based on the African worldview. What is the African worldview? I uplift right now Dr. Kobe Kambon, peace be upon his soul. He became an ancestor in December 2018. In his book, The African Personality in America, he defines the African worldview as the conceptual, ideological framework from the African cosmology, which projects African reality, history, culture, philosophy, ontology, axiology, epistemology, science as the center of the universe. So that means we're teaching math, we're teaching science, we're teaching engineering based on the African worldview, which means that African reality, history, culture, and philosophy is at the center of these disciplines. And it says it represents the African survival thrust of spiritualism, collectivism, interconnectedness, harmony, nature inherent in African cosmology. Told you I'm developing this framework, Baba. So it says the aim of ACSE is to equip Africans with the consciousness, character, confidence, and skills to advance the Pan-African community through STEM. It derives from African-centered education, which I define as a restorative and preparatory educational process created to address the adverse effects of the Ma'afa and miseducation. Similar to African-centered education, African-centered STEM education utilize a Seibai and a Sakar Seibai based on the African worldview. What is Doc talking about? When you say Seibai, you're saying pedagogy. We got to move away from their terms. Give thanks to Baba Imhotep Fadiu, who always talks about that. Give thanks to Dr. Wade Nobles, who talks about that. Dr. Wade Nobles said the true definition of power is when you have the ability to define reality and have other people accept your definition. How do we define reality? We define reality through words, symbols, pictures, language, all kinds of stuff. Well, we need to start invoking our words, right? So I had a conversation with Dr. Malana Karanga. I said, Doc, I don't want to use pedagogy anymore. Give me another word, Dr. Karanga. He said, Dr. Ma'at, he said, I'm going to look it up. You know how he talks. I'm looking up. I get back to you. I said, okay. He got back to me. He said, Seibai. I said, I like that. So we stuck with it. Seibai and Sakar Seibai. So when we say Sakar Seibai, you're saying curriculum, right? So instead of saying pedagogy, we say Seibai. Instead of saying curriculum, we say Sakar Seibai. Okay? So when you say these terms, I don't need to say it's African-centered when I say it's Seibai. Or it's Seibai, or it's Sakar Seibai. I don't need to say it's based on the African worldview. You already know what it is. Okay? So it says African philosophy, history, culture, and traditions are reflected in the teaching strategies, instructional materials, and interactions, i.e. teacher-student, teacher-parent, community, and peer interactions. It creates ASCE creates an environment that is natural and normal to African, I put in parentheses, America, but to African STEM learners. So here are the essential elements for an ASCE program. See, this is what I mean by I was looking for a conceptual framework of how African-centered education looks like in the concept of STEM. It's not there, so that's how I'll develop it. Culture must reflect African philosophical concepts. Instructors must be individuals who operate with an African-centered worldview, possess the ability to manifest and communicate this worldview to their students. Instructors must utilize a Sebai or Sakar Sebai. African ways of knowing are used to assess students' knowledge. Developers must encourage and establish a sense of communal ownership among teachers, parents, children, and community in the educational process. Discipline is non-punitive and geared towards strengthening the child's engagement in the educational process. Evaluation is holistic. It's quantitative and qualitative. Ashe? Students are empowered to excel academically without limits. The Sakar Sebai describes the contributions of African people, past and present, in the field of STEM. The Sakar Sebai provides students with an understanding of how Africans define and utilize science, mathematics, and engineering. We looked at it as art. I'm getting ready to publish a paper on that. What we called art and chemic, it was engineering. So they didn't look at the step pyramid and say, this is a great engineering project. It was art. It was art to them. When they looked at the Karnak temple and they aligned so I remember seeing I was there for the winter solstice, and at sunrise, we saw the lights. As soon as sunrise occurred, the rays from the sun shine through I think it's called Holy of Holies, shine through it, and it lit up the aisle. They didn't look at that and say, oh, that's great engineering. That was art. That was spirituality to them. That's what engineering is, spirituality and art to our ancestors. You start talking about engineering, you use the white folks term, really. But I'll keep it on. I keep it on engineering. So it says right here, foster the view that nature is respected partner in technological advancement. White folks don't care about nature. They just want what they want, right? They want to dominate, right? They want to destroy and dominate, okay? But in African-centered STEM program, we don't. We want to foster the view that nature is a respected partner in technological advancement. Encourage students to place nature and humanity at the center when making decisions regarding the purpose, production, and utilization of technology. Think about human beings. A lot of times technology is produced in this context. They don't think about human beings and how it's going to impact you, period. It's going to come out with 5G. They don't care whether it may cause cancer or not. They're just producing, this is coming up with 5G. So it says develop and assign projects that are collaborative, relevant, and culturally affirming, promote awareness and sensitivity towards the condition of African people throughout the diaspora and how acquired STEM skills can positively impact them. In academic classrooms, it needs to be a conversation on how can we use STEM to empower us. See, what's happening typically in STEM classrooms, we get the skills and we think that we're supposed to take them and go apply them with white folks. I'm just gonna get a job and go work for Lockheed Martin. I'm gonna get a job and go work for Northrop Grumman. I'm just gonna go out here, doc, and work for the government. And I'm like, wait a minute, y'all. Wait a minute. How can we use these tools, even if you do go out there and work for them, right? How can we use these tools to empower our families and our communities? That needs to be the conversation, right? So it says, I know 15 and 16, I didn't finish them up, but I wanted to communicate here that we need to redefine these terms. So I was speaking to Bob about this too one day. And I was telling him, I said, when I'm teaching, for example, the concept of Ohm's law, when I'm teaching about circuits and how to determine the voltage, across a particular element or the current flowing through a particular element, right? We're taught Ohm's law, named after George Ohm, a European, right? And they say V is equal to I times R. Voltage across an element is equal to the current going through the element times the resistance of the material, right? The resistance of the element. But we need to redefine that because, again, when we're teaching it to our youth, I don't want to keep on referring to George Ohm and Ohm's law. Let's redefine this and let's explain the relationship between voltage, current, and resistance in our terms, the way we understand it. Not to take away credit from whatever he proposed, but when we're teaching it to our children, remember, it needs to be centered around us. So it needs to be some redefining of terms, concepts, and theories. I'm almost there, y'all. So a practical implementation of what I just communicated to you was done in 2022 with the UACI Summer STEM Camp. This is a partnership between my program, Conscious Ingenuity, and Baba Amin's school, the Ahuvu Academy. So we got together, and I was like, Baba, we need to get we could get a STEM camp and make it African-centered. I mean, really African-centered. Not just get up and teach some history and we call each other mamas and babas and go home. Like, really make it African-centered. So he and I, we produced this in 2022. We did our first iteration. We completed our first iteration in 2022. And we had a second one in 2023, and give thanks. We should be able to offer it again this summer. But we produced this camp with these goals in mind. We want to, first of all, strengthen the students' Africanity while exposing them to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, right? The STEM professionals and projects, provide an understanding of how STEM can be used to advance African people, and then expose the students to the fundamentals of coding, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. That's what we've been doing. So this is the data from the summer, or the program description for both summers. In 2022, we had 13 students. In 2023, we had 22 students. Our goal has always been to have 30. And so hopefully we meet our mark this summer. And all of them were between the ages of 7 and 17. I noticed that our younger ones were really excited, but the older we went, some of the ones who were like 15, 16, and 17, they weren't as enthusiastic as the younger people. So I'm trying to think of ways we can keep the older children engaged through this process. And so we had students all across the U.S. from New York to California. We advertised it on social media, and we made sure that everyone in that space looked like us. Everyone in that space. So I believe this is the first year. Yeah, this is the first year, because look how young Jalen looks over here in the corner. This is the first, you can tell this is the first year. All right, and we had a good time. Yep, Jalen and Chase, they look so young. But we had a really, really good time with our Watoto. It says right here, we utilize the Sebaik and the Sakar Sebaik to engage the participants in an interactive virtual setting. But in 2023, I wanted to get some data to measure, like, is our effect, is our method, right, of teaching STEM, is it effective? Because a lot of times we go out here and we implement stuff, but we're not measuring anything. We're not collecting any data to say whether or not it's efficient. So in 2023, I decided to, I contacted the company called Allies Impact, and I had some surveys, created. And we'll get to that in a second. But this was our schedule. The children were with us from 9 to 1. And everything that I'm getting ready to share with you, Bob Amin and I have submitted a paper that's being published with the American Society for Engineering Education. So that means that someone will be able to use this as a framework to implement their own African-centered STEM education, whether it's any type of program. It could be a school. If they want to do STEM, they now have a framework that they can follow, right? So this was our camp schedule. They checked in with us. Since it was virtual, Bob had them do like some exercises, which was followed by like an African proverb. Then they had a break, and after that, they got they got a STEM history lesson, right? Then they broke, and then they had their technical lesson. Then they had another break, and then we ended with community, where we allowed the children to just process what happened throughout the day and express their thoughts and feelings. But this is the Sakar Sebaik. I know it's kind of small, but if you look at it, and I got to get closer to look at it myself, these were the different topics that we covered. Now, again, someone who wants to implement this can choose their own topics. This is just a framework. But the children learned about the chemistry at the Blombos Cave, prehistoric African mathematics, astronomy at NAT Playa, the genius of Imhotep, how George Washington Carver saved the farm, the physics of Dr. Shikantai Diop, how Katherine Johnson made it safe to go to space, how Gladys West gave us GPS. So these are the sorts of things that they learned, followed by their STEM topic or their engineering topic. So they were introduced to IoT devices. IoT is an acronym that stands for Internet of Things. And then cybersecurity concepts, confidentiality, availability, integrity. Then they were also introduced to artificial intelligence and machine learning, data and algorithms, supervised learning, and all these are machine learning mechanisms, by the way, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and neural networks. And we made sure that all of the projects that they had, it was collaborative, and the projects were culturally relevant and culturally affirming. So it wasn't just like giving them a STEM activity. It was culturally relevant, culturally affirming, and it was collaborative. So we gave them evaluation surveys. We gave them evaluation surveys in 2023. And they were adapted from, and this survey is public, this is online. It's a survey called Utilizing the Student's Attitude Towards STEM, so they call that the STEM survey. And it says it asks students to provide information about their attitudes towards science, technology, engineering, and mathematics subjects, post-secondary pathways, and career interests. And so we gave them two versions. So for 4th through 5th grade, they had one version, and 6th through 12th had another version. So these were the results. And this is how I said, I know we got some good stuff going. Students' confidence increased concerning how they expect to perform in their classes. Look at this. Differences between pre and post scores were highest for engineering technology, difference of 50 percentage points from pre to post. So we know that what we were doing was effective. Look at this, followed by computer, 30 percentage point difference. Science, 29 percentage point difference, and math, 20 percentage point difference. Students who were in the 6th grade or higher reported increases from pre to post camp in their plans to take advanced classes in almost all subjects. The greatest increase was noted for math. So now we know that what we're doing is effective. A notably large increase among the older students was seen in their intentions to attend college. At pre-camp, it was 40%. By the time we finished with them, 90% of them said, I want to go to college. Students' level of familiarity with the African contributions to STEM increased from pre to post. Pre-camp, very familiar, was 40%. Post-camp, 65%. Students' awareness of African people who made important contributions to STEM increased from pre to post, 65% to 90%. So our students were learning. They were learning, they were engaged, they were confident. So look at this. Students rated the program as a 9.15 on average on a scale of 0 to 10. 55% rated the program a 10 out of 10. And this is what the children were saying. It was excellent. It was excellent. Notably, 85% of students said that the camp seemed different from other STEM camps or classes they've taken, primarily because the specific content focused on African Americans, the different, more in-depth learning approach, and the use of a mini computer called the microbit. It says students use words such as great, incredible, amazing, empowered, inspired, and motivated to describe how they felt about learning from people who look like them. Students were equally positive about their feelings in response to learning about African contributions to STEM, and many remarked how learning about the contributions of their ancestors made them feel good about themselves. These are just some selective examples right here. And you can see the jump. I am the type of student who does well in math, pre-10, post-35. I'm good at math, pre-15, post-35. So you kind of can see the jumps and the increase. I expect to use science when I get out of school. 25% said yeah, but then by the end of the camp, it's up to 40%. It's up to 40%. So future work, I have 2 slides left, I think 2 or 3 slides. Future work, we want to offer the UACI Summer STEM Camp consistently and continue to evaluate the impact of using African-centered STEM education on African American learners. Our goals are to increase not only the representation in STEM field, but to establish reliability in our results. So somebody may say, well, Doc, that was 20 students, right? What's going to happen next year, the year after? So we want to definitely increase the reliability of our results. We plan to develop and administer summative assessments for future UACI camp iterations. What I'm saying right here is, that's great to feel good, but are you learning? So let me now implement summative assessments to make sure you actually are learning the concepts and ideas being presented to you. Connect UACI students with university research centers for experience and assistance with designing and tackling a real-world problem. So trying to bridge the gap between community and university. It's a huge gap right now between community and university. You know, and so I'm trying to bridge that gap. So start bringing students to the university from the communities to work in the lab, to get nurturing from the graduate students and the research center directors. Add lessons and activities on agriculture and expound on the concept of STEAM with agriculture added. And then firmly establish our STEAM program locally, nationally, and internationally. Family, make sure that you get your children enrolled in Conscious Ingenuity. We are a K through 12 African Center school, so make sure you go to consciousingenuity.com. Get your children enrolled in this program. If you look behind me, I can't wait to take our picture in Mexico, because I've recruited about 5 more students. So I'm gonna be sitting in the middle. I'm gonna have an army of black engineers behind me, ready to go into the community to teach our babies, and they have to be African centered. I just developed a handbook. They got the mandatory reading from the Browder File, centered and breaking the chains of psychological slavery. So they got to be African centered to be in this program, or at least be willing to get trained up in it. So that's what's happening here. Make sure, family, that you get your Meltrek products. We're getting ready to drop Meltrek episode 3. I had my intention was to drop it this week, but I went to Ghana, came back, I was exhausted, but I said I'm going to get it out. I'm going to get it out. But this week, I'm definitely going to make it available on Amazon and also for purchase through Meltrek365.com. And that is Meltrek episode 3. So if you haven't watched Meltrek episode 1 and 2, make sure that you watch it. Get your children ready for Meltrek episode 3. And make sure that you get your children enrolled in the ASAFO training camp.
That's right.
You know, Barbara and I, we ready to rock and roll. We ready to rock and roll this summer. And I had a conversation with Mama, it's in Jinga. And I had a conversation with her. She's ready to start the Agoji camp for girls. So hopefully, if all goes well, this summer at graduation, Bob and I be shaking hands with the boys on one side and the girls on the other side. So we had the ASAFO training camp and also the Agoji training camp for girls. I want to close with this quote by Dr. Amos Wilson, one of my favorite intellectual scholars. I love this man. I can sit and listen to him all day. Dr. Amos Wilson said, the function of education is to maintain the biological survival of a people. Dr. Ma'at called this STEAM education a necessity, right, for the liberation, sovereignty, and survival of African people. Dr. Amos Wilson said the function of education is to maintain the biological survival of a people and to advance their interests, defend their interests, and enhance their quality of life. He says that if your education does not function in those terms, then it is miseducation. It does not matter how much knowledge you have accumulated or how competent you are in terms of your skills. Family, let's get our babies, let's provide our babies with STEAM education, right? Science, technology, engineering, art, agriculture, mathematics. Let's get serious about African liberation. Let's get serious about African sovereignty. And let's get serious about African survival. And it's my contention as I stand here, for sure my name is Dr. Ma'at, the only way we're going to achieve those things, in my opinion, we gotta push STEAM. We gotta push it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Does anyone have any questions?
How do you go about applying for those camps?
Yes, ma'am. So we have a website, UACI Summer STEM Camp. If you Google the name of the camp, it'll pop up on the website. You click the link, and you can, yes, ma'am. And I can provide you with the information. But we have a website where folks can register. So I can provide you with that information. Yeah, I'm
You
trying to,
have to be from a particular area?
not at all, it's virtual.
Oh,
It's
okay.
virtual. Yeah, from 9 to 1. So what we do is we send the children a STEM kit. So once you register, we send you out a STEM kit. We also send you a Google Chromebook computer. So you get a computer, you get a STEM kit, and your child just has to log in from 9 to 1 virtually, be with us, as long as you have internet in the household. We don't provide the internet, but we will give you a Google Chromebook, and we will give you a STEM kit so that your child can participate.
Like I said, it was going to be beautiful. So now she messed with me a little bit. She messed with me a little bit.
What I do?
All right, but I gotta say something. I gotta come back.
What I do?
So when I say science, I'm talking about all the science.
Oh, yeah.
So what I mean is, can y'all tell me how many sciences did she mention today? Just this one presentation. How many sciences did she mention? How many sciences you mentioned, Dr. White?
I'm trying to think how many. I don't think I didn't go through each. I didn't go
She
through
went
each
through
of
social science. She went through mathematical science. She went through educational science. She went through statistical sciences. She went through all these variations of science. And what I mean is, like, engineers are like at the bachelor's level. That's a very serious field.
Right.
Now, these other fields, you have to have the advanced degree to really participate at the scientific level. But in engineering, Dr. Ma'at has a PhD, a doctor of engineering in engineering science. Well, so she is like, she's bringing just one person right here is all of that. No, really, like this one person is a social science, she's a statistical science, she's a teacher, she
There
does
was a
all.
lot of statistical science.
Yeah, she's doing all of that. And not everybody's doing that, but we need all those people.
We do.
Ashe? So give that sister, Dr. Oya Ma'at, another round of applause.
Get your mind back.
Thank you.
Black and I'm proud. Black and I'm proud. When you claim you're Africanist, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim you're Africanist, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim you're Africanist, you're gonna get your mind back.